ебать!
Ебанет, не ебанет? Ебанет.
Ukraine has unleashed a hellish symphony across Russia, and this time Moscow itself is engulfed in catastrophic flames. From the oil depots of Smolensk to the suburbs of Moscow and the distant reaches of Leningrad, a vast front of targets erupted almost simultaneously. Further south, strikes reached Belgorod and Kursk, while deep inside the contested Donbass region, critical infrastructure shuddered under sudden impact. On the night of September 11th, swarms of drones darkened the sky, turning once secure shelters into places of panic. Residents watched in disbelief as wave after wave of precision attacks shattered their sense of safety. Although officials have not confirmed it, many analysts believe next-generation Flamingo long-range cruise missiles were involved. The sheer accuracy, immense strike power, and relentless tempo of the explosions suggest that Ukraine deployed weapons far beyond the ordinary. The Ukrainian-made Flamingo missile is a particularly alarming prospect for Moscow. With a 150-kilogram warhead and a staggering 3,000-kilometer range, it is designed to bypass traditional defenses. If Flamingos were indeed used, Russia faces a new era in the war, one where its heartland is no longer beyond reach. The first flames lit up the darkness in Smolensk. There, the fully operational Lucy oil depot and the Kardamovo settlement became a blazing beacon of vulnerability. Only 2 of the depot's 16 massive tanks had survived a Ukrainian strike the previous year. Now, drones once again turned the unfinished wreckage into a firestorm. Social media footage shows a UAV locking onto its target, gliding unerringly along a pre-programmed route and slamming into the terminal. Off-camera voices can be heard confirming that the doomed structure belonged to the Lucy facility. Almost simultaneously, alarms shrieked in Penza, where explosions ripped through a regional natural gas pipeline connected to Russia's primary oil network. Local sources insist the blasts were no accident. They struck at the very nerve centers of the energy grid. Far to the northwest, the port of Primorsk, Russia's key oil gateway to Europe, suffered its own nightmare. Drones descended over the giant terminal, igniting a ship and sparking a fire at a pumping station that halted operations for hours. The smoke towered into the night, creating a state of emergency that underscored the scale of the assault. While flames engulfed distant ports and pipelines, Moscow itself was not spared. In the Naro-Fominsk district, about 70 kilometers southwest of the capital, residents were jolted awake by the roar of anti-aircraft batteries. Witnesses described successive explosions in the night sky so bright they briefly turned darkness to day. Russian sources confirmed that numerous air defense systems were activated as unidentified drones pierced the capital's protective ring. This was no random strike. Since Soviet times, Naro-Fominsk has been home to the elite 4th Guards, Kantemirovskaya Tank Division, a showcase of Russia's armored might, and a fixture in Kremlin military parades. Its bases also house critical electronic warfare units and command infrastructure, making the district a nerve center for Russia's ground forces. Analysts debate whether the attackers sought to disable radar, disrupt communications, or simply send a psychological message. Even Moscow's best-defended assets are vulnerable. The implications are profound. Each drone that evades Russia's air defense erodes public faith in the government's ability to protect its own capital. For a country that prizes control and spectacle, the sight of flashes over Moscow is more than a tactical breach. It is a symbolic wound. These assaults form a pattern, crippling Russia's energy lifelines rather than merely striking at frontline troops. Exploding pipelines, burning oil depots, and crippled logistics terminals threaten the very fuel network that powers the military and the civilian economy alike. The Kremlin attempted to mask the damage by restricting gasoline exports back in July, but that measure was a bandage on a widening gash. The domestic fallout is undeniable. Prices for the popular A95 gasoline grade have surged nearly 50% since the start of the year. Stations across southern Russia, occupied Ukrainian territories, and the Far East have run dry for days at a time. Drivers wait for hours with plastic jerry cans. Parents queue with children in the cold morning air, sometimes pushing stalled vehicles to the pump in desperation. Bus routes are canceled. Schools and workplaces close for lack of transportation. In Moscow, a single tank of fuel can now cost the equivalent of a month's groceries. Agriculture is reeling as well. In the south, combine harvesters sit idle for want of diesel. Trucks cannot move grain, leaving wheat to rot in the fields. Factories that rely on steady shipments of raw materials, from steel mills to chemical plants, have slowed or shut down, forcing thousands of workers into unpaid leave. From Moscow to St. Petersburg, from Kursk to Kazan, ordinary Russians now wake each morning wondering whether the next strike will land in their own neighborhood. Housing ads quietly disappear. Investors shy away from land purchases. Hotels sit half empty as concerts and theater performances are canceled. The hum of cultural life has given way to the wail of sirens and the drone of emergency announcements. A profound demographic shift compounds the anxiety. Russia's educated and mobile middle class, engineers, academics, IT specialists, artists, is steadily leaving. Some already live abroad, others are packing their bags. Their departure drains cities of innovation and entrepreneurship, leaving behind a different population. Those enriched by defense contracts, bureaucrats stationed in occupied territories, and the newly wealthy tied to private military companies. On paper, the real estate market may look lively, but this boom is a mirror of displacement and forced resettlement, not prosperity. Beneath the surface, another fear spreads, a second wave of mobilization. The first call-up in autumn 2022 was traumatic. Men pulled from their homes in the night, tearful farewells at train stations, hundreds of thousands rushing to border crossings. Since then, the Kremlin has avoided the word mobilization, yet the reality seeps through. Rather than a single nationwide decree, Moscow now uses stealth quotas delivered to regional governors, factory managers, and local bureaucrats. Debtors, undocumented migrant workers, young people flagged by social services, even the homeless become easy targets. Some are pressured by family members. Others volunteer to erase debts or secure meager social benefits. Those who return from the front rarely come home whole. Post-traumatic stress, bursts of anger, and the normalization of violence accompany them like permanent shadows. Meanwhile, a domestic labor crisis deepens. As locals are sent to fight, and migrants face raids and deportations, sectors such as agriculture, logistics, and construction struggle to function. Routine police checks and sudden deportations sow xenophobia and threaten the very workforce that keeps Russia's economy moving. Russia's economic indicators paint a grim picture. GDP growth in the second quarter of 2025 barely reached 1.1%. Mining contracted, public services shrank, professional sectors melted away, and wholesale trade faltered. Only one industry continues to grow: weapons production. For ordinary families, food inflation above 10% turns daily meals into luxuries. Bread, milk, and eggs cost triple what they did a year ago. Potatoes, the staple of countless Russian tables, have tripled in price. Even as official statistics claim inflation is under control, most households can afford little beyond bread or candles. The central bank keeps interest rates between 18 and 21%, a medieval squeeze that forces small businesses to close and families to burn through savings. Even Sberbank, the government's own flagship bank, now admits a recession is inevitable. This is not a functioning economy. It is a war storehouse, trading bullets for bread. Electricity may flicker out, but missiles roll off assembly lines. Each strike from Ukraine does more than destroy a depot or pipeline. It chips away at public trust, stability, and any sense of a shared future. As Ukrainian drones and missiles cut deeper into Russia's infrastructure, the Kremlin's machine loses a cog with every blow. Refineries are reduced to ashes, logistics networks crumble, and city streets empty as families flee. What began as a special military operation has become something darker: the slow internal collapse of an empire. This war is no longer confined to the front lines. It is written across the night sky in fire, echoed in empty shop windows, and whispered in the quiet desperation of families who cannot feed their children or heat their homes. Each attack is not only a military strike, but a psychological one, reminding millions that the state they once relied on is fading into history. If this deep dive has opened your eyes to the hidden realities behind the headlines, support independent analysis by subscribing to MGE. Thank you for watching.